Hi, third grade scholars. Welcome to our very first Wit and Wisdom lesson. I'm so excited to get started learning how to read and write as a third grader with you this year. Yesterday during our class meeting, I gave you a quick assignment to draw a picture about how reading a book makes you feel. Go ahead and take a moment to make sure you have that picture right next to you. And give me a thumbs up on your screen when you have it with you and you're ready to go. We're going to take a moment, boys and girls, before we get into our lesson today to share a few of our pictures that we drew yesterday. And I'm going to get us started. So if you look up at my screen here, I drew a picture of me and my youngest son, Benny, reading a book together before Benny went to bed. And I wrote the words happy, and I drew a heart because reading to my son Benny every night fills my heart with love and makes me so happy. So when I thought about reading a book and how that makes me feel, that was the very first thing I thought of. I'd love to hear and let you guys hear from one another how you feel when you read a book. If you want to share, give me a thumbs up in the screen so I can see you and see that you want to share. And when you share, I know you don't have a camera like me, but when you share, you can just hold your picture up to the camera, just like this. Okay, go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you're ready to share. Great job sharing those reading feelings, scholars. I want you to keep that picture close to you as we work through our lesson today, because you're going to make a connection as we're reading, I think, to the book that we're reading today. So keep that picture near you today, and we'll be coming back to it a little bit later in the lesson. We're going to do two things in our lesson today, scholars. The first thing we're going to do is learn about 3 different kinds of questions that we ask as readers during our Wit and Wisdom lessons. And then we're going to make observations and ask questions about a book called Thank You, Mr. Folker. Let's dive right in. We're going to look first at 3 different kinds of questions that we ask as readers. This year, scholars, we're going to read a lot of different books together. Today, we're going to read a text called Thank You, Mr. Folker by Patricia Polacco. It's one of my all-time favorite books, and I think you're really going to like it too. As we read today, we're going to learn about the 3 questions that we are going to ask as readers in Wit and Wisdom, and we're going to do a couple routines that are going to be really common in our classroom as well. Whenever we start a new book in Wit and Wisdom, we will always start off with an essential question. The essential question that we're going to work on in this module or in this unit of study is, how does reading help us build knowledge? Knowledge just means understanding. So another way to say our essential question is, how does reading help us build understanding? An essential question in Wit and Wisdom is always a big question that will help you as a reader discover the big idea of the module or the unit that we're in. We're going to start each module with that big essential question, and then we're going to think about it and come back to it often as we build understanding throughout the unit. The next kind of question that we will very frequently talk about in Wit and Wisdom is called a focusing question. The focusing question for this module is, what does reading mean to Tricia in Thank You, Mr. Folker? Focusing questions are medium-sized questions that will help us connect the text that we read to the big idea of the module. They're going to help us gather lots of information and ideas that will eventually help us answer that essential question by the end of our learning in that unit. I have a question for you now, scholars. I want you to look carefully and reread both the essential question and the focusing question and think about what is similar about these two questions. When you have an answer, touch your brain and keep your finger there so I know you're ready to discuss. Give me a thumbs up if you want to share your answer of how the essential question and focusing question are similar. Great job, I agree. Both the essential question and the focusing question are about reading. And in this first module, which is 6 lessons long, we are going to be focusing and learning a lot about how reading helps us build knowledge. The last kind of question is called a content framing question. The content framing question that we're going to work on today is, what do I notice and wonder about "Thank you, Mr. Folker"? You'll notice that content framing questions are even more focused and smaller than focusing questions. Content framing questions will happen every day. Our one for today is the one I just read. What do I notice and wonder about "Thank you, Mr. Folker"? These content framing questions help give us information to answer our focusing question. Boys and girls, now I want you to think about, reread the focusing question and the content framing question and think, what do these two questions have in common? Touch your brain when you have an answer. I see so-and-so is ready. I see so-and-so is ready. Great thinking, scholars. Okay, show me a thumbs up if you want to share. How are the focusing question and the content framing question similar? You got it. Both of these have to do with the text, "Thank you, Mr. Folker." And that's because, boys and girls, we're going to be spending 5 days focused on this text. Each day, we'll have a new content framing question that's going to help us answer that focusing question. Great job. Okay. Really great job, boys and girls. Take one more minute just to look at this screen and see how our essential question starts big, gets a little smaller with our focusing question, and smaller still with that content framing question that we will answer each day.